Discover the unexpected moment. Little girl's touching plea to waitress leaves CEO dad speechless. Jake Thompson was trapped in his own world, a whirlwind of skyscrapers, deals, and numbers that defined his pulse. At 42, the words family time echoed in silence, fading into the background of his ambition-fueled existence. Today, though, in the middle-class maze of suburban America, he reluctantly carved out time for his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. They stepped into Joe's diner, a beacon of laughter and warmth, vibrant families clinging to the simplicity of shared meals. Jake's mind raced with thoughts of the contracts he had to finalize, the meetings piled up like his growing anxiety. He wouldn't be here if he could help it. As they sat, Jake's fingers danced over his phone emails, screaming for his attention, while Lily thrived in the moment, lost in a colorful menu that promised comfort food. "Can I have the pancake stack, Daddy?" she chirped, eyes gleaming. Her innocence brushed against Jake's hardened focus. He glanced up, a brief smile flickering before he returned to the incessant notifications demanding his time. Minutes passed like hours as he scrolled, the clanking of silverware and chatter merging into a dull roar, a world away from his corporate empire. Then, amid the buzz, he noticed Maria, a waitress in her 50s, weaving through the chaos, her apron straining under the weight of her responsibilities. Lily tugged at his sleeve, her gaze fixated on Maria. "Look, Daddy," she whispered, curiosity tangled with compassion. "She looks tired." The waitress tripped suddenly, soda cascading onto their table. Jake's instinct flared, irritation bubbling within. He was about to unleash a reprimand, yet in that split second, Lily's gentle plea softened the air around them. "Can we help her, Daddy? Everyone deserves a little kindness." The words pierced the armor Jake wore like a second skin. He froze, grappling with a surge of conflicting emotions, his corporate mind screaming to dismiss this distraction while his heart fluttered, reminding him of a more human, tender approach. Memories slammed against him, his father's relentless chase for success, the cold dinners, the unyielding focus on profit margins. Freedom from the corporate grind remained a distant fantasy, yet here lay a stark contrast: the innocence of his daughter's heart against the backdrop of his ruthless world. He wanted to be a better father, to teach Lily about compassion instead of bottom lines. Yet the thought of derailing his meticulously crafted day sent shivers of unease down his spine. With resentment rising in his chest, he fought to contain it, his mind racing. What did it mean to be successful? Financial power or making a positive impact? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The noise around him faded, the diner entering a surreal silence as Jake's internal struggle escalated. Was he truly the man he wanted to be, living for power and wealth while life slipped into the background? The visceral pang of responsibility and guilt clawed at him when he found his gaze drifting back to Maria, still scrambling between tables, exuding resilience packed with exhaustion. How much longer could she carry that weight? With his heart pounding beneath the suit, Jake wrestled with the uncertainty of Lily's influence over him and the shadow of his professional choices. It was a moment pregnant with unspoken implications, the question burning behind his eyes: would he choose to act on her gentle nudge or retreat to the safety of indifference? A truth lay before him, just waiting to unravel. Jake pinpointed the swell of uncertainty unfolding in his chest. Every instinct screamed for him to retreat into the familiar sanctuary of his corporate world, the numbers, the negotiation tactics, the measures of success that had defined him for so long. Yet now, wearing a suit that felt increasingly like a shackle, he sat at a diner table with an epiphany growing heavier by the moment. Staring at Maria, he began dissecting the tempo of her movements: the weary gait, the grace under pressure, the small smile she offered patrons despite her fatigue. What if he stepped out of his comfort zone for just a moment? Could that simple gesture shatter his hardened corporate facade? Could he, for his daughter's sake, understand what it truly meant to be present? Maybe it would be nice to help, he mused, barely audible, his voice flickering like the light catching on a fork. He shifted his attention back to Lily. She was beaming with enthusiasm, simply delighted at the prospect of lending a hand. Her excitement sparked a flicker of conviction within him, pushing against the boundaries he so desperately clung to. "Let us go talk to her," Jake said, his heart racing at the unexpected turn of his intention. Lily's eyes widened. "Really, Daddy? Can we?" Steeling himself against an uncertain response, Jake slid out of the booth with a sudden awareness of how out of place he felt among the clamor of the diner. The cacophony reminded him of boardroom meetings, but with an undercurrent of warmth he had forgotten existed. He felt unsteady as they approached Maria, who was still wrangling with a stack of dirty plates. "Excuse me," Jake said, his voice emerging more tentative than he anticipated. "Can we help? Lily and I would love to lend a hand." Maria paused, taken aback, a flicker of surprise darting through her eyes before she replaced it with a weary smile. "Well, that would be a first. Most people just want to eat and leave," she said, the hint of laughter in her tone revealing a glimmer of her fighting spirit. As they began helping, Jake felt each moment reshape his perception. He wiped tabletops, filled drinks, and even learned how to carry heavy trays, actions that felt foreign yet rewarding. The mundane became enlightening as he observed fleeting exchanges with customers, little acts of kindness that fueled Maria's spirit. However, amidst this reawakening, Jake's mind collided with nagging worries. What would his colleagues think? Would they judge? The anxiety of his professional world began to seep in, threatening to sabotage this newfound experience. Yet, battling against the rising tide of doubt, Jake pressed onward. "Thank you," a patron exclaimed, catching him off guard with gratitude. It unleashed something inside of him, a realization that connection mattered more than any accolades or deals sealed. In that moment, Jake understood the profound effect small acts could have, not just on others but on his own identity, on who he was becoming. Lily laughed, spinning in circles as if the diner had turned into a playground. Her joy was infectious, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, Jake's heart lightened. He was learning a lesson not found in boardrooms or strategy meetings. This was real, tangible personal growth born from a simple act motivated by love and compassion. As the day wore on, he found himself contemplating this shift. Could he sustain this change? Was it possible to intertwine his professional drive with a commitment to kindness? Yet apprehension loomed, whispering doubts into his ear. How would this perspective shift ripple back into his corporate existence? In that moment of clarity, the question remained: was he prepared to confront the precarious balance between ambition and empathy? The weight of his next move lingered in the air, charged with uncertainty. He glanced at Lily, whose joy illuminated the diner, and knew a pivotal choice awaited him. Would he step further into this unfamiliar realm or edge back behind the cold glass of corporate success? Jake hadn't anticipated how a few hours of service in a diner could unearth such discontent within him. The joy he witnessed in Lily highlighted the hollow spaces in his life. Every satisfied smile from a customer reaffirmed his growing awareness of how disconnected he had been from the warmth of human interaction. As he and Lily worked side by side, a sense of camaraderie blossomed between them that he hadn't felt in years. They exchanged smiles and laughter, their shared effort a bonding experience far richer than any corporate retreat or team-building seminar he had ever attended. In those moments, he caught glimpses of the father he wanted to be, one who prioritized presence over perfection, connection over checks and balances. But as he wiped down another table, a flicker of doubt sparked within him. The whispers grew louder, his old life beckoning him back with promises of achievement and status. What if his colleagues saw him here, in an apron, slinging coffee instead of conference calls? Was it foolish to trade his high-powered career for this ephemeral sense of fulfillment? "Daddy, look!" Lily exclaimed, bouncing up on her toes as a couple entered the diner. "They look so happy." Jake followed her gaze, feeling the warmth of familial joy envelop them both. The couple grinned as they strolled to the counter, bantering like old friends. In that instant, Jake's heart pounded with something he hadn't felt in years, a yearning for authenticity, for genuine moments that made life worth living. "Are we almost done?" Lily asked, her face scrunching up in weariness. "Just a little longer," Jake reassured her, pausing to gather his thoughts. "We're doing good work here, you know." The words felt strange but empowering. He could sense his own transformation, like layers of an onion shedding as he stared into the abyss of his previous life. With every dirty plate sent back to the kitchen, he was reclaiming parts of himself lost in the grind of numbers and profit margins. Could he redefine success beyond the metrics and titles he'd chased for so long? His resolve began to solidify, pushing against the fear that taunted him. After a particularly busy rush, Maria pulled him aside. "You're a natural, you know. I don't usually see people like you in here." Her voice held a hint of both admiration and disbelief. "Just trying to be present," he muttered, surprise washing over him at the sincerity of the admission. What was once foreign space now became his compass. "I get that. But whatever motivated you to join in, don't lose that spirit," she said, her words lingering. "People like you have the power to make changes." Those words echoed in Jake's mind, reverberating through the very core of his being. Was it possible to remain a fierce competitor while nurturing compassion? Could he transition from a calculating businessman to a transformative leader? At the intersection of empathy and ambition, he sensed the dawning of an urgent realization. The journey ahead demanded more than just superficial shifts. It would require him to confront uncomfortable truths. The path to success now seemed to entail a delicate dance between two worlds he once thought were irreconcilable. As twilight fell outside, painting the diner in hues of gold and pink, Jake glanced at Lily. Her eyes sparkled, alive with imagination and hope. In her innocence, she mirrored the values he desperately wanted to embrace, yet, as he faced the beckoning shadows of his alter ego, a pressing question loomed. Could he truly integrate this new perspective into his life? The suspense twisted within him, urging him to consider the unthinkable, a shift not only in career but in identity. Jake inhaled slowly, absorbing the atmosphere around him as his thoughts spiraled into both anticipation and trepidation. The moment had arrived to confront his past decisions, the stakes escalating not just in business, but in his essential being. He stood at a crossroads, torn between what he had always known and the uncharted territory waiting to be explored. The clock was ticking, each tick an invitation toward potential, but at what cost? Would he emerge ready to embrace this duality, or fall back into the arms of familiarity? The dinner rush subsided, leaving the diner quieter, the bustle replaced by soft chatter and clinking cutlery. Jake leaned against the counter, wiping the remnants of the last few orders from the stainless steel surface. The adrenaline of the hectic afternoon faded, replaced by a reflective stillness that filled his chest. Suddenly, he noticed Lily at one of the booths, drawing pictures on napkins. She was imitating the motions he had made moments before, intent and serious in her task. A smile crept onto his face as he admired her concentration. There was something genuinely fulfilling about seeing her engaged, expressing her artistry in a simple, tactile way. "Daddy, look. I'm drawing a family," Lily exclaimed, holding up a crude but heartfelt rendition of 3 stick figures, one significantly smaller than the others. His heart twisted. "And who are they?" he asked, kneeling beside her. "Us." She laughed, a bright twinkle in her eyes. "See? That S you, and that S me, and that S maybe Aunt Maria?" A wave of warmth washed over him. For the first time in ages, Jake could visualize a life where moments like this were commonplace. He imagined breakfasts filled with laughter, impromptu trips to parks, and evenings spent sharing dreams and hopes, unfettered by the weight of deadlines and board meetings. But just as quickly, doubt seeped in again. The sharp voice of his past whispered warnings. Was he really prepared to let go of the financial security he had built? What if this newfound sense of belonging was just a phase, an indulgence that could cost him dearly? He could secure a big promotion in a matter of weeks. Could instant stability ever be worth the cost of deep connections? With a sigh, he constantly questioned whether those pressures would shred this delicate new resolve. "Hey, Jake," Maria called from the register, breaking his reverie. "You okay, buddy? You look like you're deep in thought." Her intuition, sharp as ever, quickly unraveled the cocoon of introspection he had built. It was as though she had uncovered the knots tightening within him. "Just thinking about everything," Jake replied, his voice tentative. "About what it means to really be committed to something." She leaned against the counter, her expression shifting to one of concern. "Commitment can take many shapes, you know." It doesn't always mean sacrificing one identity for the other. You can be a businessman and still find space for this. The wisdom in her words struck him. Why did he continually pit these elements against one another? Why had he made the world feel so binary? Lily interrupted their conversation, tugging at Jake's sleeve. Daddy, what are we going to do tomorrow? More drawing? The simplicity of her question propelled him into a new line of thought. Drawing, staying present, and nurturing this relationship didn't have to interfere with his career aspirations. Maybe he could integrate both worlds, creating a synergy he had previously dismissed. Yeah, we can draw. But you know what else we could do? He proposed, brightening up. I saw a park nearby. Maybe we could go there after this? Her eyes widened in delight. Really? Can we have ice cream too? Of course, ice cream. He laughed, heart lifting in affirmation. The conversation with Maria and Lily ignited something within him, purpose threaded through with joy. Instead of viewing commitment as a sacrifice, it could instead represent a pathway to greater fulfillment on multiple fronts. But as he prepared to close the diner for the night, the familiar pull of his past life reared its head again. The calls of the executive world loomed large in his mind, still offering that siren call of success measured in dollars and accolades. The thought of the upcoming board meeting gnawed at him. There was a naivety in thinking he could step away without consequences. The thrill of competing still coursed through his veins, and with it came the fear of losing all that he had worked for. What would happen when the numbers turned red, the profits dipped, and the discussions turned heated? Would this new commitment to family and connection be strong enough to withstand the pressure, or would it crumble under the weight of fear and expectation? Jake's heart raced as he realized the stakes of his emerging duality. Balancing the two worlds could demand more than he ever anticipated. He straightened up as the door swung open, allowing the glow from the streetlight to flood the diner. But tonight wasn't about the challenges to come, it was about taking this first step, allowing himself to navigate through uncertainty and redefine his life on his own terms. With each passing moment, the undeniable urgency of the choice ahead simmered in a quiet yet persistent resonance inside him. As the last customer faded into the night, Jake took a deep breath, preparing himself for a dawning realization that awaited just around the corner. His future awaited, and the time was drawing closer to make that pivotal decision. Would he shape this journey, or would he once again fall prey to the seductive embrace of comfort? The next day dawned with an odd energy coursing through Jake. As the familiar hum of the diner enveloped him, he couldn't shake the feeling that today might present an unexpected test. He moved mechanically through routines, pouring coffee and taking orders, yet his mind buzzed with thoughts of the impending board meeting. The thrill of competition clawed at him, battling against the growing realization that there was a new path worth exploring. Mid-morning, as he wiped down tables, a small voice broke through his whirlwind of uncertainty. Daddy, can I help? Lily stood by the counter, her eyes gleaming with enthusiasm. It struck him how her innocent desire to assist held a mirror to his own struggle. Here was a child, unencumbered by doubts, wanting nothing more than to be part of something greater than herself. Of course, sweet pea, he encouraged, kneeling to her level. What do you want to do? I want to take the orders like you do. Her enthusiasm was infectious, pulling him from the depths of his contemplation. Maybe she was on to something. What if he approached his responsibilities with the same spirit of simplicity and joy? He set Lily up at a nearby booth, her own little notepad poised and ready. As customers came in, Jake couldn't help but notice how they treated her. They smiled at her excitement, indulged her questions with bemusement, and some even leaned in, prompting her to write down their orders like a true waitress. Watching her flourish, a wave of warmth swept over Jake. It was the most genuine connection he had experienced in a long time, a reminder that even simple interactions held profound meaning. Perhaps this newfound commitment to family wasn't a distraction but a reinforcing pillar in his life that could elevate his professional pursuits. Suddenly, the diner door swung open, and a familiar figure sauntered in, a high-powered executive from his firm, Randall. The contrast was stark. Randall exuded ambition and urgency, a man conditioned by relentless schedules and soaring expectations. Jake's heart sank. The meeting loomed larger now than ever. Hey, Jake. Can you believe the numbers? Randall boomed, drawing closer. We need to tighten our strategy. You're going to really impress the board with your insights. Jake battled internally. Randall's words lured him back with a siren-esque call of corporate success, but something grounded him in that moment. He looked over at Lily, beaming with pride as she triumphantly scribbled order after order. They're doing well. I'm working on it, Randall, Jake replied, realizing he was straddling two worlds. Could he somehow enrich both his professional and personal life? Don't waffle, man. Promotions are at stakes. You need to be hungry out there, not daydreaming. Randall's voice struck him like a lightning bolt, propelling Jake into the weight of choices crashing down on him. Jake felt its effect a step deeper than mere annoyance. For the first time, it was as if Randall's ambition clashed against the instincts awakening inside him. This wasn't just a test of loyalty to his firm or his job, it was a potent confrontation with himself. Who was he allowing to dictate his worth? The boardroom was rife with pressure, but was that all there was to measure success against? As Randall chatted about their projected growth, Jake's focus drifted. Every word sounded hollow against the backdrop of giggles from Lily with customers, their laughter punctuating the more serious undertones of corporate competition. How much longer could he participate in an equation that only weighed success against a backdrop of profit? With a wave of determination, Jake excused himself from Randall's sales pitch. Stepping back, he inhaled deeply, allowing the smells of coffee and warmth to circulate through his system, anchoring him back to his present reality. Lily, he called, nearing her booth. Do you think we could do this together sometime, like making the diner a fun place for everyone every day? She looked up, eyes sparkling. Yeah. People should have ice cream too, right? Her innocent exuberance struck a chord deep within him, prompting a realization. Jake's dual world was demanding equal devotion. He didn't have to choose between success at work and a fulfilling family life. He could intertwine them, channeling the essence of joy from Lily's actions into his professional demeanor. He felt an empowering shift rise within him. As the clock ticked toward the meeting, the fear of being trapped in one path started fading. Confidence replaced it, interspersed with visions of crafting a genuine, holistic approach to his life rather than a severed version of himself. Yet, anxiety lurked beneath this newfound resolve. With both worlds growing closer at the seams, would the expectations of his past inevitable come crashing in like a wave, seeking to drown his emerging sense of self? As Jake prepared for the board meeting, he realized the hardest challenge was still ahead. Would he be able to articulate his newfound perspective amid the cutthroat environment? The opportunity to forge a new future lay tantalizingly close, but he still needed to confront the fight ahead. The moment had come, and he would soon face the undeniable truth weighing heavily in the air. The boardroom awaited, but would he be prepared to stake his claim in a world he was only beginning to understand? The boardroom sat in stark contrast to the diner's warmth, its sterile walls and carefully arranged seating giving off an air of formality that unnerved Jake as he stepped inside. He felt the invisible weight of scrutiny from his colleagues, and yet, on this day, he was determined to channel an inner conviction sparked by Lily's innocent joy. As he settled into his chair, he could feel Randall's piercing stare boring into him. The other board members were shifting their attention toward him, their expressions a mix of expectation and impatience. They were waiting for Jake's insights, eager to hear the next big strategy to bolster their bottom line. But what was he really prepared to offer today beyond the numbers? What did success even mean now? Jake's mind raced, sifting through memorized statistics and SWOT analyses. Yet the often sterile lingo felt inadequate, lacking the authenticity that his newfound perspective demanded. Perhaps there was a way to infuse the meeting with a refreshing honesty that avoided empty jargon. As the meeting commenced, his colleagues volleyed ideas back and forth, their discussions steeped in terms that felt increasingly disconnected from the life he wanted to cultivate. Randall, leaning forward, presented his findings with fervor. We need aggressive projections, Jake. The numbers are our lifeblood, they define our success in a quantifiable way. Feeling the walls of the boardroom close in, Jake took a deep breath that echoed the comforting aroma of coffee from the diner and Lily's unfiltered optimism. It was then he realized he had a choice: cling to the predictability of tradition or step forward, however shaky, into the uncharted territory of his own aspirations. Actually, he interjected, steeling himself against the wave of apprehension coursing through him. I believe we should consider how our strategies impact our clients on a more personal level. Surprised looks met his assertion. Personal level? Jake, this isn't a therapy session, Randall shot back, but Jake pressed on. We've been so absorbed by metrics that we've overlooked the human aspect of our business. We have to remember that our clients are more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. They are families, individuals, people who have dreams and aspirations, he insisted, realizing how closely related that philosophy was to his own evolving mindset. Jake looked around the room, catching their expressions. Some were furrowed in confusion, while others remained skeptical. Yet internally, he sensed a shift. Picture this, he continued, encouragingly, if we integrate our clients' needs into our innovations, we're not just pushing products, we're offering solutions that enrich their lives. Like ice cream at a diner, it's not just a treat, it's a moment of joy and connection. The boardroom remained silent as his words hung in the air. It was uncertain whether they grasped the implications of what he was proposing. But Jake felt something take root deep within him, a newfound commitment to stay true to what mattered, even in the corporate grind. He was no longer just a cog in the machine, he could inject meaning back into his role. Randall's eyes narrowed. This isn't about feel-good platitudes, Jake, we need to be competitive. But what if our edge is precisely that human touch? Jake replied, the words tumbling forth now with an urgency that startled even him. What if we embrace our humanity in our pitch? People want to feel valued, they want their choices to reflect their identities. By understanding them, we can provide value that transcends the ordinary. A sudden stillness filled the room, as if time had paused. Jake recognized that while he might be risking the wrath of Randall and the senior executives, he was standing resolutely on the brink of his own intentions. He might have opened a door to an unexamined path, one that could weave together threads of personal fulfillment and professional ambition. As he looked at his colleagues, doubt flickered within. Would they collaborate on this unfamiliar journey, or rather adhere to the comfort of their old paradigms? Doubt still lingered, pressing down like a thick fog, threatening to erode his modest bravery. In that moment, Jake made a silent vow to continue navigating this delicate equilibrium between two lives. He had sparked a conversation, now, he would have to see whether it would flourish or fizzle out. But as tension filled the air, something deeper emerged. Perhaps he was not just advocating change but also engaging in a form of rebellion against the confines of convention. With uncertainty gnawing at his resolve, a new realization dawned on him. The true challenge wasn't just in persuading the board, it was in owning his own voice amid the cacophony of competing ambitions. Would they embrace the shift, or would he once again be relegated to silence? Sitting in that modern boardroom, Jake knew this was just the beginning of a larger confrontation, one where he would have to reconcile the ambitions ingrained in him with the authentic self he was becoming. The moment had arrived, but what he didn't know was how steep the climb ahead would be and how fierce the resistance might prove. As he faced the skepticism in the eyes around him, he took a deep breath, preparing to see if this would be a breakthrough or another barrier. Jake's heart raced as the silence in the boardroom morphed into a heavy cloud of uncertainty. He could feel Randall's skepticism like a piercing chill, and the weight of the moment threatened to crush any remnants of confidence he had summoned. But Jake couldn't turn back now. He took another deep breath, allowing the memories of Lily's laughter and the diner's warmth to flood his mind, reminding him of why he had chosen this path. The board members were shifting in their seats, the tension palpable. Jake noticed the faint furrows of concern etched on the foreheads of his colleagues. They were grappling with a concept that felt so foreign to their traditional approach. The urgency in his voice had carved a path, but it was one strewn with barriers. He focused on the faces present, determined to find a flicker of understanding in their eyes. Imagine if our campaign spoke directly to the person behind the transaction, he pressed, trying to break through the resistance. We can narrate stories that resonate, elevate customer loyalty, and redefine our brand. We have the tools, we just need to align our vision with their lives. We won't just be seen as a corporation, but as allies in their aspirations. The room was still and charged. Randall's tight-lipped expression suggested he was deliberating how to regain control of a conversation that was spiraling into unknown territory. Jake could almost hear the gears turning in Randall's mind, searching for an angle to undermine his claim without outright rebuffing the sincerity in Jake's tone. "Jake, how do you propose we measure something so subjective?" Randall asked, his voice strained. "You're suggesting we prioritize sentiment over sales, which is a slippery slope." Jake felt the remnants of doubt creeping back, but he steeled himself. "I'm not suggesting we abandon our metrics, Randall. Rather, I propose we define our metrics differently. Success should encompass both financial returns and client satisfaction. If we blend the quantitative with the qualitative, we can enrich both our offerings and our relationships." The board stared at him, their skepticism swirling like a tempest. For the first time, he didn't crave their approval. Instead, he found strength in his clarity. He was beginning to understand what it meant to advocate for himself, for his vision. This wasn't just about winning over his colleagues, it was about constructing his own professional identity, but challenges were on the horizon. Randall cleared his throat, preparing to unleash a counterattack. "It's an admirable idea, but idealism won't pay the bills. What makes you think our clients will respond positively to this shift?" Jake felt a spark igniting within, a mixture of indignation and purpose. "Because people are tired of being a number. They want connection, authenticity, and respect. Look at the shifts in the market. Consumers are drawn to brands that reflect their values. If we're emotionally aligned with them, they will choose us over cheaper alternatives." His words hung in the air once more, the tension now mixed with a hint of curiosity. Would they begin to see merit in his narrative? What if this discussion was merely a catalyst for a much broader transformative process that extended beyond numbers? Yet as he maintained eye contact, flitting between the expectant stares of his colleagues, an unsettling thought took form. Was he equipped to lead this change? The internal battle deepened as he understood the monumental task ahead. This encounter wasn't simply about pitching ideas, it was a confrontation with ingrained doubts about his capabilities. What if he steered them away from profitability by romanticizing the customer relationship? But then again, what if he was right? The potential for change was palpable, a symphony of new possibilities waiting to be unleashed. As he contemplated his next words, the room suddenly felt smaller, the stakes had shifted. Jake was no longer just thrusting ideas toward an unwilling audience. He was advocating for a future he wasn't sure he could achieve but was determined to explore. The board meeting had morphed into something more, a staging ground for conflict that ran deeper than numbers. This was a juncture that would force him to confront his own belief systems and identify whether he could champion this cause. The journey ahead looked daunting, marked by unpredictability and resistance, but Jake sensed the need to press on. "Let us not just discuss metrics today," he ventured with newfound conviction. "Let us agree to explore this perspective together. I'm ready to invest my efforts into building the trust and relationships that will define our success. We can either linger in our comfort zones or embrace the complexity of human connection." As the meeting stretched into lingering silence once again, Jake realized he had crossed an invisible threshold. The question that loomed ahead was not just about their response but about his ability to faithfully navigate the complexities emerging within himself. With that thought crystallizing in his mind, he was jolted by the reality of his predicament. The stakes were higher than ever, and he had to decide quickly. Could he rally their support to embrace this human-centric approach, or would he find himself isolated once more in the world of cold logic? The moment of truth was nearing, and Jake knew the outcome could change everything. Would he emerge empowered by this new path, or would it lead to an unanticipated pitfall that shrouded his aspirations in uncertainty? As silence enveloped the boardroom, Jake could hear the ticking clock, each second serving as a reminder of the pivotal choice before him. The discomfort of uncertainty hung thick in the air, but within him stirred a burgeoning resolve. He was not merely defending an idea anymore, he was challenging a legacy of rigid practices and inviting his colleagues to rethink their convictions. In that moment of suspense, a flicker of courage ignited. "I understand the reluctance to shift from what's familiar," Jake began again, carefully layering his words with conviction. "But what if we dared to envision our brand not just as a service, but as a partner in our clients' lives? If we craft our messages around real experiences, we allow our consumers to see themselves in our brand stories." A few heads nodded hesitantly. Jake felt a sudden surge of hope as he recognized that even minimal acknowledgement could indicate a growing openness to his vision. They were grappling with this radical thinking, but perhaps he could plant the seeds of acceptance. Imagine a loyalty program where rewards are not just points, but experiences, he continued, gaining momentum. Let us create moments that resonate beyond transactions. We could link our sales data with customer feedback to develop an emotional connection that goes beyond discount incentives. Randall's expression remained stoic, but behind that mask, Jake knew he was questioning the old model. Jake's heart thrummed with ambition. He had glimpsed a new world of possibilities and he was on the edge of claiming it. Just as he thought he was breaking through, Randall interjected, reigniting Jake's doubts. That all sounds commendable, but can you guarantee that consumers will respond? What's your plan if engagement decreases? Jake hesitated, transfixed by the reality of that question. The fear of failure darted through him, but he forced it away. I can't guarantee success on a silver platter, but I can guarantee that if we try nothing new, we'll remain where we are, stagnant and irrelevant. As the board members weighed his challenge, Jake felt a shift inside. This was not just a battle for his professional aspirations, it became a personal crusade for authenticity in a world often too enamored with numbers to recognize the humanity behind them. Could he become the architect of a culture that valued connection over conformity? Suddenly, the door creaked open, and a junior analyst entered, nerves etched across her face. She carried a stack of papers, but her presence transcended mere logistics. It felt like an interruption in their high-stakes dialogue, yet it sparked something within Jake. Here was a glaring representation of the future, the newer generation that craved more than traditional benchmarks. Sorry to interrupt, she stammered. I just wanted to share some insights from the data we've gathered about consumer sentiments. It seems our recent campaigns did resonate, but not in the way we initially perceived. As she began explaining, Jake's mind raced to process the implications. This was an unexpected treasure trove of feedback directly correlated to the vision he had presented. In that moment, he realized he was not alone. The specter of collective resistance could be transformed into an opportunity for collaboration. With renewed vigor, Jake interrupted gently, "Thank you for sharing these insights. This is precisely the type of dialogue we need to engage our clients more effectively. It can be the anchor of a paradigm shift." He felt a rush of adrenaline. They could be the change, rising together to meet the market's demands in ways previously deemed impossible. Let us not just take the data at face value, let us dive deeper. Let us analyze the stories behind those numbers. This is our chance to evolve. The boardroom buzzed, finally beginning to coalesce around a shared concept. Discussions sparked and validated ideas that once clashed rigidly against the wall of conservatism. Jake sat back, absorbing the newfound energy cascading around him, yet the impasse remained. The ultimate acceptance of his vision hung in the balance, tempted by curiosity and gnawed by established fears. His heart raced, sensing that he stood on the cusp of profound change. Would he grasp this fleeting moment and cultivate it into a transformative reality, or would fear cause his vision to falter yet again? As the exchanges continued, Jake knew the next episode awaited him. A unique opportunity now rested upon his shoulders, but it didn't come without potential pitfalls and the threat of failure looming overhead. With every interaction, Jake wrestled not only with others' reactions but also with the anticipation of what clarity could mean for himself and for the company. He must decide, will he push for this groundbreaking shift, or would he retreat into the security of well-worn paths? The answers loomed tantalizingly close, yet still hazy in the contours of his aspirations. As the discussion continued, the energy in the room shifted. The initial tension that had hung heavy, like a dark cloud, began to lift slightly as participation increased. Jake watched his colleagues engage with one another, constructing arguments, counterpoints, and ideas that flowed like a current of mutual discovery. Yet beneath this emerging enthusiasm lay an undercurrent of doubt, the lingering question of whether these ideas could survive the harsh realities of implementation. Jake seized the moment. "We can't afford to let fear dictate our direction," he asserted, standing taller, his voice firm and clear. "This is about transforming not just our approach, but our identity. If we don't embrace what our consumers are telling us, we risk being obsolete. It's time we become innovators, not just followers." The murmurs of agreement increased, but Jake could not shake the apprehension gnawing at him. Could he truly drive this change, or was he merely a voice in a corner, destined to go unheard? A fleeting thought crossed his mind. What if it all fell apart? The specter of failure threatened to rear its ugly head again, but deep inside, he recognized a vital truth. Growth required risk. As the hours progressed, they delved deeper into consumer feedback. Data crunched and opinions flourished. Jake realized that the junior analyst's bravery to present her findings was not merely an act of courage but a reminder that no matter the hierarchy, every voice could add value. That was pivotal in a realm driven by metrics, where numbers often drowned out the human aspect of business. Let us create a working group, Jake proposed. We can brainstorm practical implementations of these insights, integrating tangible experiences into our campaigns. We must be fluid and responsive. Let us put real emotion at the forefront of our strategy. Suddenly, Randall spoke up again, his tone revealing an almost begrudging respect. That sounds promising, but how do we ensure we stay true to our brand while exploring these new territories? It can't just be a flash in the pan. This was the crucible Jake needed, a direct confrontation with the very fears that had once haunted him. He met Randall's gaze, determination sharpening his resolve. We build a mission statement that embodies both our history and our evolution, he said, enthusiasm crackling through him. This is about merging legacy with innovation. Our brand's core values can adapt, we don't have to abandon them. We can evolve into something greater. Cheers of encouragement broke through the room's intensity, like rays of sunlight piercing through clouds. Jake was no longer alone in this endeavor, he had ignited a spark that resonated even with Randall. The interplay of words, ideas, and emotions transformed the boardroom, allowing Jake to grasp a vital truth: the power of collaboration and trust in collective insight. Yet beneath the surface of this budding collaboration, Jake faced an internal crossroads. Who was he now? The journey from a reluctant employee entrenched in traditional constraints to a pivotal agent of change felt exhilarating, yet burdensome. He sensed the weight of expectation and responsibility shaping his newfound identity. While we chart this course, there will be challenges ahead, he emphasized as the energy in the room peaked. I'm asking for your trust, but we must also remain accountable. Our team's dynamic now depends on transparency and resilience. Will you step into this uncharted territory with me? The sound of his heartbeat thundered in his ears, a reminder that this was more than fleeting motivation, this was growth forged from the fires of vulnerability and courage. Each person sitting at that table represented not just colleagues but allies contributing to a common vision. He realized he could not afford to let his fears, or the naysaying of the past, stifle this moment. As they began to outline actionable steps, Jake felt the sweet surge of empowerment coursing through him, a sensation that had evaded him for years. But alongside that exhilaration came a realization of what truly lay ahead, the daunting task of leading a group through untested waters while carving out a path that also felt authentically his own. The final thought lodged itself in his mind like a clarion call: this was not simply about reshaping corporate identity, it was a rigorous trial of his own integrity and authenticity. Could he continue to challenge himself, grow, and foster a culture that valued diverse ideas over rigid adherence? Suddenly, in the midst of purposeful dialogue, Jake caught sight of Randall's smirk, a small spark of potential mischief. The battle lines were drawn, the time had come to face the challenges deeply embedded in the hearts of the company and perhaps even within himself. In the days that followed the seemingly inconsequential yet profound experience at the diner, Jake Thompson found himself navigating a dual existence. He had stepped into a transformative role, one where personal fulfillment and professional ambition intertwined in unprecedented ways. Each morning, as he donned his tailored suit and prepared for the corporate grind, he carried with him a newfound clarity. It was a clarity shaped by Lily's innocent enthusiasm and the simple acts of kindness he had embraced that he began incorporating his insights into board meetings, challenging the status quo with a mix of data and human-centered narratives. No longer did he shrink beneath the weight of Randall's jibes, he stood firm in his conviction, pushing forward as he advocated for a marketing strategy encompassing deeper emotional connections with clients. His colleagues began to listen, not just because of the metrics but because Jake now spoke with the authority of someone who believed in the power of empathy and connection. One afternoon, during a routine review, a light bulb moment struck him. The data produced by the junior analyst he once brushed aside was spot on. Why don't we hold a customer engagement roundtable? He proposed, his excitement palpable. Let us hear from our clients directly. Their experiences are our goldmine. The boardroom responded with surprised nods and murmured agreement, a consensus he hadn't witnessed before. The shift in dynamics was striking. Jake's voice now commanded respect instead of skepticism. The transformation wasn't instantaneous, but each acknowledgement from his peers felt like a battle won, inching toward a horizon of organizational change. Simultaneously, back at home, Jake made tangible commitments to family life that stitched together the fabric of his aspirations. He initiated weekly family nights, celebrating not just birthdays but everyday wins. He often found himself laughing with Lily over board games, and in those light moments, he forged deeper connections with her that transcended the previous emotional distance. The warmth of family time grounded him. The struggles he once felt were receding into an expansive landscape of joy, where connection reigned over competition, yet, challenges were still part of the equation. As he set forth his new vision, whispers of doubt lingered, particularly from Randall, who subtly ramped up his pressure as quarterly results approached. We need results, Jake. This lovey-dovey approach isn't working. Numbers don't lie, he sneered one morning. Jake felt the familiar pang of anxiety, the restless thinking that had once haunted him. But this time, he was prepared. Numbers reveal trends, Randall, not the entirety of our competitive edge, he countered, invoking a steadiness he hadn't known he possessed. When we connect with our clients on their level, we not only drive sales, we cultivate loyalty. The assertiveness in his tone surprised even himself. In each confrontation, he navigated his two worlds with increasing bravery, transforming doubt into determination. As the quarterly review approached, the stakes heightened, but Jake embraced the challenge rather than shied away. He meticulously prepared a presentation that interwove personal stories gleaned from the recently conducted customer interviews with the vital statistics of their performance. Every number has a story, he began confidently during the meeting, gazing at the board members. For instance, Maria's Diner, a humble yet vibrant space, underscores the importance of engagement. We can be a brand that builds relationships rather than just tallying profits. The atmosphere crackled as he presented. The numbers alluded to potential growth fueled by engagement and relationships, a compelling narrative about how human connection can elevate a brand. As he finished, the board erupted in applause, an unfamiliar yet empowering sensation coursing through him as he realized he had not only won their attention but also their trust. The chairman looked at him, pride shimmering in his eyes, announcing, "Let us take this to the next level." That day marked more than a significant corporate victory. It symbolized Jake's personal triumph in rewriting his narrative. He stepped out of the boardroom transformed, his confidence consolidated further by the validation of his new path. The man who had once felt trapped in the confines of corporate ambition now stood as a beacon of empathy-driven leadership. He returned home, and as he engaged with Lily about her day, they laughed about their own mini-marketing campaign to the neighborhood kids about ice cream flavors. The present felt richer, as if a weight had been lifted. A sense of calm satisfaction enveloped him. Jake had not only achieved recognition within the company, he had conquered an internal battle, transforming from a numbers-driven executive into a leader who understood the crucial balance between ambition and authenticity. His heart swelled with pride, not for accolades, but for the genuine connections he was nurturing with his daughter and his clients. This was what success truly embodied, a life where personal growth resonated through professional life, each enhancing the other. And in this new chapter, as the sun dipped below the horizon, he felt the weight of fulfillment, assured that he could face all that lay ahead with confidence. So, if you found inspiration in Jake's journey, now is the moment you need to subscribe. Every single story like this enriches our lives and fuels our ambition. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and make sure these empowering tales reach others who need to witness transformational stories. Comment below your thoughts. What did you take away from this conclusion? Don't wait even one more second. Share this video immediately with at least 5 friends who need a boost of encouragement towards their own path of transformation. Your support is crucial for bringing light to more personal overcoming stories.